Finishing a crochet project is always satisfying, but sometimes it can feel like something's missing, and that something is often a border. The right border can completely transform your project, whether it's a blanket, a scarf, or even a tapestry for your wall. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the Picot stitch border. Before adding any of the decorative borders to my swatches, I like to start with a base round of single crochet. You can see I've already done that with these swatches here. And the reason we want to do that is to neaten up the edges and give us a clean, even foundation to work the border into. Most of the time, I like to use the same color as the swatch for this round so it blends in. And then we can switch to a contrasting color for the main border. But that part is totally up to you. You can get creative with it depending on the look that you're going for. So let's just really quickly look at how we're going to do this single crochet border. So to start your single crochet border, make sure that the right side of your swatch is facing you. If you've just finished your last row and the yarn is still attached, you can use that. Just chain one to begin a new round. And if you're on the wrong side currently, make sure you turn your work so that the right side is facing you. But if you're like me and you don't have yarn attached, we're just going to join it in the top right hand corner up here. So to do that, I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. And then insert your hook into the very first stitch in the top right hand corner and complete a single crochet. And then we're going to work all the way across the top of here, just placing one single crochet into each stitch. Now, of course, if your swatch is done with a different stitch, so say, for example, maybe it's moss stitch and you've got a chain space every other stitch, you'd also work into each of those chain spaces as well. You just want to work nice and evenly across the top until you get to the very last stitch. And when we get to the end of the row, we need to turn this corner. And to do that, we need to put 3 single crochets into this very last stitch. So we'll do 1, 2, and then 3. And that has allowed us to turn that corner and continue working down the edge of our work here. Now with my swatch, I was working mostly in single crochet. And that means that when I'm working down here, I can just put 1 stitch into the end of each row, and that's going to be nice and even. But if you're working with a different stitch, a taller stitch, for example, like double crochet, you might need to put more than 1 stitch per row. So if we take a look at one of my other swatches, this one, for example, has some double crochet stitches, and I had to put 2 single crochets into some of the rows. But the important thing here is not necessarily the number of stitches per row, it's that your work is nice and even. You want to check that as you're working, it's not puckering up or becoming wavy, that it is lying nice and flat like this. But as I said, if you've got a swatch like mine, which is mostly worked in a single crochet, it's nice and easy. We can just put 1 single crochet in the end of each row. And we're going to work all the way down this side until we get to the foundation chain down here. And when we get to the end of that edge, it's time to turn the corner. But before we do that, make sure you lie your piece out flat and make sure that this edge is staying nice and flat like that and that it isn't puckering up. If it is, don't worry, just rip out your stitches and try again, add some more stitches or fewer stitches until you get a nice even edge like this. And when you're happy, we can turn this corner. So we're just going to find the very first foundation chain here, and we're going to work 3 single crochets into there, just like we did with the previous corner. So 1, 2, and 3. And just as we did before at the top here, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of our foundation chains until we get to this last one here. And again, we'll place 3 single crochets into the last one. Then we'll turn our work around like this and work into the edge of these rows, just like we did over here. So you can go ahead and work all the way across here, work into this corner here, and then work down this edge here. And I'll meet you at the end of this edge where I'll show you how we're going to finish things off. And when you've worked all the way around your square, it should look something like this. Now, when we started our border, we began in this corner up here. And we only put 1 single crochet in this corner, but as you know, we normally put 3 single crochets in the corner. So to finish this off, we're just going to put 2 more single crochets into that same stitch where we worked our first single crochet. So that is right there. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then we're just going to slip stitch with that first stitch there. And then we can cut our yarn and fasten off. Or if you want to do the next part of the border in the same color, you can of course keep it attached. But I'm going to be using a contrasting color. So I'm going to fasten off and weave in that end before I get started with the next step. we're going to take a look at the Picot border. And the really fun thing about this one is that it is easy to customize. So you can make your Picot stitches bigger or smaller than what I'm doing. And you can also decide how far apart they'll be in the border depending on the look you're going for with your project. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to attach our yarn in the top right-hand corner. So in the corner here, we've got the 3 stitches that we did into the corner. And we want to do it into the last one just here. So we're going to insert our hook into there. Yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook to do a single crochet. Now we're going to work into the next stitch here and we're going to do a single crochet into there as well. And then we're going to do our first Picot stitch. So for this, we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And as I mentioned earlier, you can customize the size of your Picot stitch. So if you wanted to do a smaller one, you could just chain 2, or if you wanted to do a larger one, you could chain 4 or 5. But once you've finished your chain, you're going to find the first chain just at the bottom here, and you are going to slip stitch into that chain. So insert your hook into there, yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. And that is your Picot stitch done. Now we're going to find the next stitch across and single crochet into there. And then single crochet into the next stitch as well. And this is where I'm going to do my next Picot stitch. As I said before, you can spread yours out more than this. So you could do yours every 2 stitches, every 3 stitches, every 4 stitches. It's totally up to you what you want to do. But I'm going to chain 3 again. And you could also alternate the size of the Picot. So you could do a smaller one here and then a bigger one here and then the next one smaller. But just to keep things simple, I'm going to keep mine all the same size. So I've done my chain 3 and then we're going to slip stitch into the first chain. And that's the Picot stitch done. And then we're just going to continue working in this pattern. So single crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the stitch after that, and then do a Picot stitch. And you can continue working in this pattern or whatever pattern you've decided to go for, all the way across this top edge and meet me in the corner over here. And when you've worked across your first edge and you get to your corner, we're actually just going to continue working in the pattern. We're not going to do anything special in the corner like we have been doing for the previous stitches. We're just going to continue doing 2 single crochets followed by the Picot stitch or whatever pattern you're working in. So this really is quite straightforward. We're not doing anything special at all in the corners. You can just continue working in your pattern all the way around your border. And then when you've worked all the way around your square and you've worked into every single stitch in that single crochet border, you can finish off your round by slip stitching with that first single crochet that we did and then fasten off. And while all borders are going to benefit from some blocking, this one will in particular. You can pop a pin in each of your Picot stitches to make sure they really pop out and look really neat. And if you want more tutorials like this one, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.